My name is Stacy Vermillion, and I'm with the League of Women Voters of Collier County. Welcome to Get Ready to Vote, a presentation by Sandy Parker about the candidates and races in the August 23rd primary election. This webinar will last about an hour and a half and will cover state, federal, and local candidates. Before I turn this over to Sandy, we'd like to ask you to answer these two survey questions. Could you put the quiz up? While the poll is being populated, we're so glad you're interested in the primaries, where voters get a chance to choose the candidates that will appear in the November election. In some cases, the primary election can be the final election too, if one candidate gets just over 50% of the vote and there's no opponent of a different party. Also, during the webinar, we'll try to answer questions you might have as time allows. Please use the Q&A button on your screen, as we won't be checking the chat. However, on the chat, there is a copy of Sandy's presentation that you can download. It's in a PDF format. So, all right, we're going to end the poll. All right, so the poll can disappear. Thank you. All right, thank you. Now to introduce Sandy. Sandy Parker is the founder and publisher of the award-winning nonpartisan Sparker's Soapbox website and monthly blog, now in its 12th year. She's been a valued source of objective information about candidates and races, and we are grateful for her help today. Sandy, turning this over to you.
Thank you, Stacy, and welcome everyone. It's great to have you all here with us today, and I look forward to helping you get ready to vote in the upcoming August primaries. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to start out with some really basic terminology that's important to go over so that we all have it as a basis for the rest of the presentation. I'm going to talk about at-large and single district elections, nonpartisan and partisan elections, and closed primaries. After that, I'll get into really the meat of today's presentation and talk to you about the offices and candidates who will be on the ballot. Starting with federal offices, I will then look at state offices and local offices, and I will let you know what local referenda will be on the ballot as well. And then I'll close with some next steps. So, part one, voting and elections in Florida, some terminology. The first two terms I want to go over are at-large elections and single district elections. And we all pretty much think we know what it means, but when I had to put it into words, I really struggled a little bit. So let's see if this makes sense to you. In at-large elections, all of the voters under the jurisdiction of a government body elect the members of that government body. So for example, the jurisdiction of the officer of the governor of Florida is the entire state of Florida. The governor is elected by all the voters in the state in an at-large election. On the other hand, while the jurisdiction of the Florida Senate is the entire state, the state is divided into 40 districts for purposes of electing the 40 senators. And each senator is elected by voters in her district in a single district election. And the map on the right is the Florida Senate districts. So that's the first set of terms. Next, I want to talk about nonpartisan elections and partisan elections. In nonpartisan elections, candidates do not run as members of a political party, and all voters, regardless of their party affiliation, can vote in them. Nonpartisan elections on the ballot in August are judicial elections and school board elections. In partisan elections, candidates do run as members of a political party because the purpose of partisan primaries is to choose the candidates to represent the parties in the general election. So only registered Republicans can run in the Republican primaries, and only registered Democrats can run in the Democratic primaries. The last term I want to go over is closed primary. Florida is a closed primary state, one of just 9 in the country. In closed primary states, you must register as a Republican to vote in the Republican primary, and you must register as a Democrat to vote in the Democratic primary. There is an important exception to Florida's closed primary rule. When all the candidates for an office have the same party affiliation and the winner will have no opposition, then all qualified voters, regardless of party affiliation, may vote in the primary. When that happens, it's called a universal primary. So those are the terminology terms that I wanted to go over before we get into the presentation. I just wonder, Stacy, do we have any questions at this point?
Nope, we don't.
All right, then let's get to the meat of the matter on the ballot. So please don't think that this presentation is going to help you decide right off the bat who you're going to vote for. The goal of this is to give you a high-level overview of what offices are on the ballot and who the candidates are. You will have to do some more research on your own once you know which of the particular races will be on your ballot. And in this presentation, I have provided you with all of the candidates' websites so that you have a place to get started. So let's begin with the federal offices on the ballot and start with the U.S. Senate. As you know, members of the U.S. Senate are elected in single district partisan elections by voters statewide. Each state elects 2 senators who serve for 6-year staggered terms with no term limits. Republican Marco Rubio, Florida's senior senator, is running for re-election. This is the homepage of Rubio's website. A candidate's website is the first place that you should go to begin your research into the candidates. Candidates usually have a tab called About or Meet in order to introduce themselves to the voters. Rubio's is called Meet Marco. Incumbents generally also have some sort of a tab where they can talk to you about what they've done for you. In Rubio's case, he calls it News. New candidates usually have a tab called Issues or Platform in order to tell you where they stand on the issues that are important for them. As of the most recent campaign filing, Rubio had raised $30.2 million. No other Republican has challenged Rubio for the seat, and so Rubio will be the Republican Party's candidate on the November ballot. On the other hand, 3 Democrats are running for the Senate seat. Congresswoman Val Demings is Rubio's closest challenger, both in terms of polling as well as money raised. A little bit about Demings. She served 27 years at every rank in the Orlando Police Department and made history in 2007 when she became the city's first female police chief. In 2016, she was elected to Congress, and in 2020, she was one of the impeachment managers who presented the case for impeachment of then President Trump to the U.S. Senate. She has a little bit more than Rubio has raised to date, $30.8 million. Several others are also running for the seat, but as you can see, they've raised little to no money. Democrats, in addition to Demings, are Ricardo de la Fuente, Brian Rush, and William Sanchez. And those 4 Democrats will be on the ballot for registered Democrats in a closed Democratic primary. The winner of the Democratic primary, as well as Marco Rubio and MPA candidates and Libertarian candidates, will be on the ballot in November. Turning to the U.S. House of Representatives, members of the House are elected in partisan single district elections. They serve for 2-year terms and there are no term limits. Florida now has 28 seats in the House of Representatives, gaining 1 seat in redistricting because of population growth. And here's Collier County. Zooming in on the map, you can see the outline here of the counties, and you can see that there's 3 different colors that fall into the boundaries of Collier County. 44% of Collier voters live in District 19, which is in the orange. 55% of Collier voters live in District 26, which is in green. And just 1% of Collier voters live in District 18. It's not even the entire area of Immokalee. It's about half of the area of Immokalee. So if you're not sure which district you live in, especially with the new maps that just came into effect, you can find that information on your voter information card or from the Supervisor of Elections website at the URL that I have listed on the page. Zooming in a little bit more to District 19, it has parts of Collier and Lee counties. Republican incumbent Byron Donalds is running for re-election in the new District 19. He's currently serving his first term, and he has the endorsement of former President Donald Trump. He had raised $3.8 million as of the most recent filing. Donalds has one Republican challenger, Jim Huff from Port Charlotte. As a drill rig operator with the Army Corps of Engineers, Huff worked on several Florida projects that aim to restore the environment. He supports the Second Amendment, a strong military, immigration reform, secure borders, individual liberties, and the rest of the traditional Republican platform. He also supports term limits, and he says we need leaders, not politicians. Due to his late filing, we don't know yet how much money he has raised. Registered Republicans who live in District 19 will choose between Byron Donalds and Jim Huff in the August primary. Cindy Banyai is Donald's Democrat challenger. And this is her website. She says she's a mom, small business owner, and teacher fighting for our water, our health, our kids, our jobs, and our community. This is her 3rd run for Congress. She ran unsuccessfully against Donalds in 2020, and she ran unsuccessfully against David Holden in the Democratic primary in 2018. She has raised $54,000 as of March 31st, significantly less than Donald's $3.8 million. The new Congressional District 26 has parts of Collier as well as Miami-Dade County. You can see it extends almost over to the East Coast. Republican incumbent Mario Diaz-Balart is running for election in this new District 26. Now in his 11th consecutive term, he is the longest serving member of Florida's congressional delegation. And like Donalds, he was endorsed by former President Trump. He has raised $1.1 million as of the most recent filing. Another Republican and a Democrat are also running for that seat, but they have raised very little money as well. Diaz-Balart will face Darren Aquino in a closed Republican primary for District 26 voters, and the winner will face Christine Olivo on the ballot in November. Finally, that District 18, where I said that less than 1% of Collier County voters. It's a little hard to see the border, but you can read all of the counties that fall into District 18, 8 counties. It's really an interesting drawing of that district. These are the candidates running in District 18. There are 5 Republicans. Scott Franklin is the incumbent. There's also a Kenny Hartpence, Jennifer Raybon, Wendy Schmeling, and Eduardo Tarazona. So there will be a closed Republican primary for the Congressional District 18 race, and the winner will go on to face Keith Hayden on the general election ballot in November. So that's it for the federal offices. Are there any questions up to this point?
Yes, there are two questions. One question is, how should I handle if I want to change my party and my ballot's already been mailed? How do I make sure that the correct ballot is mailed? Do you want to answer that one?
I can tell you what I think the answer is. I would call the supervisor of elections office and tell them exactly that. And I imagine what they will do is send you a new ballot with your new party affiliation. But the best way to find out is to call them. Do you agree,
Yes.
Stacey?
And you can request a new ballot. You can request a new ballot. That's what you should do, and discard the ballot that comes to you if you've changed your party. If you change your party, you do need to do it by July 25th, though. That's the deadline. The second question is this, and it really relates to the same sort of issue about changing parties. And that's a viewer who wondered whether she could vote in the commissioner election if she's a Democrat.
Okay, so we're going to get to the county commission candidates, but the shorter answer is there are not going to be any Democrats on the primary ballot for county commission.
Right.
So if what you're getting at is, we're going to talk about this, but only districts 2 and 4 are going to be on the ballot, and both of those are going to have closed Republican primaries.
Thanks. All right, that's it.
All right, moving along. Good questions. So now we're jumping down from the federal government to the state government, and we're going to start with the Florida legislature. These are the new district maps for the Florida Senate and House. As I mentioned earlier, the state is divided into 40 Senate districts that you see on the left, and it's divided into 120 districts for the Florida House. And the circles show you roughly where Collier County is located. And we're going to go over all of this. So starting with the Senate, this is zooming in on Collier County. And you can see that all of Collier County falls within District 28. There are also voters in District 28 in Lee County and in Hendry County, but Collier County voters are 71% of the voters in that district. Republican incumbent Kathleen Passidomo is unopposed for re-election, and therefore she will be considered elected in the general election in November. So moving now to the Florida House, and again, here's the outline of Collier County. And you can see that Collier County is in parts of Collier are in 3 different districts. Most Collier voters, 51%, live in House District 81. 35% of Collier voters live in District 82, which is that salmon color. And 14% of Collier voters live in District 80. So let's look at each one of those. Starting in District 80, there are just 2 candidates running. Republican incumbent Adam Botana and Democrat Mitchell Schleyer. And you can see their money there on the screen. And because there's only one candidate from each party, there will not be a primary choice for either party in the primary, and these 2 will face each other in November. In House District 81, Republican incumbent Bob Rommel is also unopposed, and he's seeking a 4th term. Neither Republicans nor Democrats have filed to run against him, so he will also be considered automatically reelected in November. And in House District 82, Incumbent Lauren Mello is also unopposed, and so she will be considered automatically reelected. So that's it for the legislative branch of Florida government. Only if you live in that new District 80 will you even have it on your ballot in November. Otherwise, no decisions for us in this election for the Florida legislature. Turning next to the executive branch of Florida government, we know that a governor and 3 independent cabinet members head up the executive branch of government, independently elected cabinet members. The governor, commissioner of agriculture, attorney general, and chief financial officer. They are elected in at-large partisan elections to 4-year terms with 2-term limits. So starting with the governor. As we all know, incumbent Republican Governor Ron DeSantis is running for re-election, and this is his website. As of now, he has raised $12.7 million. No other Republican has filed to challenge him, so he will be the Republican Party nominee in November. There are 4 Democrats running to replace DeSantis as governor, and the top 2 are Charlie Crist and Nikki Fried. So let's look at each one of them. Crist is a lawyer by training. After 2 terms in the Florida Senate in the 90s, he served successively as then Governor Jeb Bush's education commissioner and then attorney general. He then succeeded Bush as governor from 2007 to 2011. He lost a 2014 bid for re-election to Rick Scott by just 64,000 votes. It was the closest race of that year's gubernatorial election cycle. 2 years later, he was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives, where he continues to serve today. And as of now, he has raised $5.6 million. Democrat Nikki Fried is also an attorney by training. She says she was a public defender, child welfare champion, and marijuana legalization advocate before being elected as Florida's Commissioner of Agriculture in 2018. Since taking office, she says she's been a fresh voice in Tallahassee, legalizing hemp, standing up for the LGBTQ+ equality, fighting for clean water, and more. As of now, she's raised $2.4 million. Cadence Daniel and Robert Willis are the 2 other Democrats running for governor. They will join Crist and Fried in the closed Democratic primary. And here's how much money they have raised. The winner in the Democratic primary will face DeSantis in November. Next, we have the Attorney General. Incumbent Republican Attorney General Ashley Moody is also running for re-election, and no Republicans have filed to challenge her, and so she will go to the November ballot as the Republican nominee. She's raised $1.3 million to date. Moody has 3 Democratic challengers: Aramis Ayala, Jim Lewis, and Daniel Ohlfelder. Ayala is a former prosecutor and public defender, and she has raised $74,000 to date. Lewis served as an assistant state attorney, a special prosecutor in the office of governor, and in the office of the attorney general before going into private practice in Fort Lauderdale in 1993, where he continues to serve. He has raised $5,000 to date. Ohlfelder has had his own general law firm serving clients in Northwest Florida and the Florida Panhandle since 2001. And as of now, he has raised the most of the three Democrats, $105,000. The winner of this closed Democratic primary will face Ashley Moody in November. The next cabinet office we'll talk about is Commissioner of Agriculture. You'll remember that Nikki Fried is running for governor, and that makes this an open seat. For Commissioner of Agriculture, 2 Republicans and 3 Democrats are running. So there will be both closed Republican primaries and a closed Democratic primary. The Republicans are James Shaw and Wilton Simpson. The Democrats are Naomi Bleemer, Ryan Morales, and J.R. Guyot. And you can notice the amounts of money that these candidates have raised. And what jumps out at you is Wilton Simpson having $2 million. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. So let's start with the Republicans, and I go alphabetically. So we'll go with James Shaw first. Shaw has been the owner-operator of a trucking transportation company, 3 Auntie Anne's pretzel franchises, 50+ real estate units, and a 30-acre composting farm. He has raised $48,000 to date. This is what you get when you go to Wilton Simpson's website. It's pretty innocuous. He's a farmer, a father, a businessman, and you can see the menu. But here's why you really need to look at a website, because when you scroll down, this is what you find out about Simpson. Simpson was endorsed by Donald Trump, the NRA, and 59 Florida sheriffs, including, by the way, our own Sheriff Rambosk. And he's supported by Governor Ron DeSantis. So Simpson and Shaw will face each other for Commissioner of Agriculture in the closed Republican primary. Now, you may recognize the name Wilton Simpson. I hope you do. He's been president of the Florida Senate. He's the outgoing Florida Senate president. And so he has not only raised the most amount of money, but he also has name recognition and a Trump endorsement. So that's going to be not a very, I'm not too worried about I'm not wondering who's going to win that primary. But looking at the Democrats, Democrat Naomi Bleemer is the granddaughter of farmers, a community advocate, a local business owner, and a mother. She has raised $28,000 to date. J.R. Guyot says, when there's crisis, bring in a fixer. He's worked as a legislative director and advisor with national and international companies, and he's now working toward a master's in international relations from Harvard. And he's raised $9,000 to date. And then we have Ryan Morales. He's the owner of a marketing and business management firm. He has specialized in journalism, internet development, and cybersecurity for over 25 years. And he has raised $13,000. So Bleemer, Guyot, and Morales will face off in a closed Democratic primary for Commissioner of Agriculture. Turning to the last of the cabinet offices, Chief Financial Officer, there are just 2 candidates running, incumbent CFO Jimmy Petronis and Democrat Adam Hattersley. So because there's only 1 in each party, there won't be any primaries, and the 2 of them will face off in the general election in November. And you can see the difference in the money raised at this point here as well. Now we're going to turn to the 3rd branch of state government, which is the judicial branch. Here, what we have is nonpartisan elections, and the term of office is 6 years. There are no term limits, but there is a mandatory retirement at age 75. In Florida, voters have a say on all judges. Supreme Court justices and appellate court judges face the voters for merit retention decisions on the general election ballot in November. Circuit and county court judges run for office in single district elections. So in terms of Collier County, all 10 of the circuit court judges that we elect, all of them were running for re-election and not a single one of them had an opponent. So all 10 of them will automatically be re-elected in November and there won't be anything on our ballot. So that leaves only our county judge office on the ballot. 6 county judges serve in Collier County, and 1 position will be on the ballot this year, the position currently held by Michael Provost. His term is expiring and he's chosen not to run for re-election, so that creates an open seat. 2 candidates, Pamela Barger and Chris Brown, will face each other on the ballot in August. Let's look at each of the candidates. Pamela Barger has been a Collier County resident for over 35 years. She has a BA from the University of Florida and a law degree from St. Thomas University School of Law. Her law career has involved working side by side with the circuit and county judges in Collier County, first as a senior staff attorney and for the last 2 years as a general magistrate in the Circuit Civil Division. And as of July 8th, she has raised $74,000, of which $60,000 is a loan from herself to her campaign. Chris Brown has been a Collier County resident for nearly 40 years. He has a BA and law degrees from the University of Florida. He worked as in-house counsel for a consulting firm, then as an assistant public defender before entering private practice in 2004. He's now a partner in the criminal defense and personal injury law firm of Brown, Suarez, Rios, and Weinberg. As of now, he has $103,000, of which $50,000 is from the candidate himself. So that's it for the state government offices on the ballot. Do we have any questions?
We do not. We had one observation that it's too bad that there are so many offices where people are running unopposed. And as a league, we should convince people to enter the process and run for office. So that was a comment. We did have one viewer who did ask for what you knew about endorsements in District 18 back in your previous section. And that's a league member, so we can get back to him if you wish separately rather than going back.
I can tell you, congressional district, I mean, which district?
18, the one that is largely in those other counties.
Well, yeah, I do not know anything about endorsements in District 18. I'm sorry. Trying to think how I would even go about. I mean, I probably would Google I would look on each of the candidates' websites and do a Google search. That's actually not one of the easier things to find unless a candidate showcases them on their website or their social media pages. But it usually does take a little bit of digging if they don't. Good question. I always look for that as well.
All right, and okay. I see there's one question, a request to re-explain the judicial district chart.
Sure. This chart? Guess that's what they mean.
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
So there are 4 levels of court in the Florida court system. The Supreme Court and the District Courts of Appeal are appellate courts, and the justices and judges in appellate courts are elected in a different way than the judges in the trial courts. And this is something that I go over in my presentation on Florida government. Basically, appellate court, Supreme Court justices and appellate court judges are nominated by the governor. Actually, they're appointed by the governor, and they serve until basically the next general election. And at that point, they come on the ballot and they have something what's called a merit retention vote. They don't run against other candidates for the position. Voters are just asked yes or no, should this justice or judge be elected to serve another term? Yes or no. That's all you're going to get. As opposed to the trial court judges, that's where somebody has to decide that they want to be a judge and they file to run, and they run against in a competitive primary if there are other candidates. So that's the difference. I hope I've answered that question.
All right, that's it.
Okay. So now we're going to move down to the next level of government, the Board of County Commissioners. So here's a map of the county, and the districts, the 5 districts are outlined in red, and each district's voters elect a commissioner who lives in the district in single district partisan elections. So here you've got both only the voters who are living in the district, and the representative has to live in the district as well. Districts 1, 3, and 5 are elected in presidential election year. The terms of office are 4-year terms, and there's now a 3-term limit. Districts 2 and 4 are on the ballot in midterm years, which means they're on the ballot now. So if you live in District 2 or District 4, you will have a commission election on your ballot. In District 2, 4 Republicans and 1 Democrat are running for an open seat. The seat is open because incumbent Andy Solis chose not to run for re-election. The Republicans are Reg Buxton, Chris Hall, Gerald Lefebvre, and Nancy Lewis, and the Democrat is Bibi Cantor. And here's the money that they have raised to date. And you can see that Buxton, Hall, and Lewis are the candidates with the money. Reg Buxton moved to Southwest Florida from Kansas City, Missouri in 1990. After community college, he worked in marketing, consulting, and documentary filmmaking, and has been the publisher of Life in Naples magazine since 2013. Buxton served on the Naples City Council from 2016 to 2020, currently serves as a commissioner on the board of the North Collier Fire and Rescue District, and he has raised $63,000 to date. Republican Chris Hall became a full-time resident of Southwest Florida in 2018. His career included 10 years in electrical wholesale, 8 years in network marketing, and 22 years as a real estate investor. He says he's running for county commissioner because his current commissioner, that being Andy Solis, voted to, quote, shut business down, put masks on people, shut beaches down, turn down a Second Amendment sanctuary, turn down a Bill of Rights, and allow businesses to force vaccines, close quote. He has raised $95,000 to date, the most of any of the District 2 candidates so far. Republican Gerald Lefebvre moved to Southwest Florida from Connecticut in 2001. He's a realtor with John R. Wood Properties and has served on the Collier County Code Enforcement Board for 20 years, including 2 years as chairman and 11 years as vice chairman. He's a member of the governmental committee of the Naples Area Board of Realtors and helped draft the Collier County short-term rental ordinance. So far, he has the least amount of campaign money of any of the candidates. The final District 2 candidate, Republican candidate, Nancy Lewis, moved to Southwest Florida from New Jersey in 1991. After high school, she entered the business world. She served on the leadership team of Save Vanderbilt Beach, a 501c4 formed to oppose the development of One Naples. She is now an administrator for the Pelican Bay Property Owners Association and a board member of the Pelican Bay Mangrove Action Group. To date, she has raised $77,000. The winner of the Republican primary will face Democrat Bibi Cantor in November. So that's a closed primary. Turning next to County Commission District 4. 3 Republicans, Deja Hinojosa, Daniel Kowal, and Michelle McLeod, as well as a write-in candidate, are challenging incumbent Penny Taylor. And again, you can see campaign contributions. There's a lot of money in this race as well. And Republican anti-abortion activist Bill Oppenheimer is running as a write-in candidate, and that is keeping the primary from being open to all District 4 voters. So there will be a closed Republican primary for this race. Starting with Deja, she moved to Southwest Florida from Portland, Oregon in 2012. She says she learned everything necessary for success from the School of Hard Knocks. She's a leadership trainer with 18 years in business management. Like Chris Hall in District 2, Hinojosa says she decided to run when the county closed the beaches and passed the mask order during the COVID pandemic. And she's raised $29,000 to date. Dan Kowal moved to Southwest Florida from Annapolis, Maryland in 2003. After serving in the Army, he worked as a special agent with the U.S. Capitol Police's Dignitary Protection Unit. For the last 18 years of his career, he was a deputy with the Collier County Sheriff's Office. He too says he disagreed with the County Commission's vote, quote, to mask our citizens and violate their basic constitutional rights. He says he's pro-clean water, pro-limited government, pro-Second Amendment, pro-law enforcement, pro-life, and pro-military. And to date, he has raised $128,000. Republican Michelle McLeod was born and raised in Southwest Florida. She had a 23-year career in hotel management, culminating as director of sales at the Naples Beach Hotel and Golf Club, and then she spent 6 years in banking. During a 4-year term on the Naples City Council, she served on the county's Mental Illness and Addiction Ad Hoc Committee and helped create the county's first 5-year strategic plan to address that issue. To date, she has raised $66,000. Incumbent Penny Taylor moved to Naples from New York in 1978. She served 10 years on the Naples City Council, followed by 8 years on the County Commission. She's now running for a 3rd term. Taylor is known for raising commissioners' awareness several years ago of the county's need for affordable housing. She recently supported the proposed 60-day notice requirement for landlords to raise rent by more than 5%, but she was in the minority. To date, she has raised $133,000. So for all intents and purposes, District 4's next county commission will be chosen in the closed Republican primary in August. The winner of that primary will face a write-in on the ballot in November. So that's it for the county commission. And I'm wondering if we have any questions at this point.
We do. We have 2 people who asked to know more about Bibi Cantor.
I am not prepared to talk about that at this point since she's not on the ballot.
Okay. Stay tuned. We will do this again for the November election. So we will be able to have Sandy's perspective about all the candidates on the November ballot. Thank you.
Is that it? Okay. Next, we're going to talk about the school board. These are the 5 school board members that are serving right now, and 3 of the 5 positions are going to be on the ballot this year. Districts 2 and 4 are on the ballot in presidential election year. Oh my goodness. And districts 1, 3, and 5 are on the ballot in the midterm. So these candidates are running for re-election. Jory Westbury in District 1, Jen Mitchell, District 3, and Roy Terry, District 5. So this is something that confuses a lot of people, and we get lots of questions about it. So basically the way the school board works is all voters countywide vote for all 5 school board members. Does not matter where you live as a voter, you vote for all 5. But the requirement is that there must be 1 board member from each of the 5 districts. And that's why we have these districts and candidates running in districts. But for all of you as voters, you will have choices for districts 1, 3, and 5 on your ballot in August. In each race, if a candidate receives a majority of the vote, she or he will be declared elected. If not, the top 2 vote getters will be on the ballot in November. And these are nonpartisan races. In District 1, we have 3 candidates running, and they are Kimberly Ann Boubier, Jerry Rutherford, and incumbent Jory Westbury. Boubier is a golf teacher and coach with the First Tee program. She volunteers with the Special Olympics, is active with her church and various ministries, and is a speaker at pro-life events. She homeschools her teenage daughter who has Down syndrome and contributes to the school district's exceptional student education advisory meetings. Boubier says, quote, "I'm a conservative Christian mother who believes in civic responsibility. She wants to restore the education system, quote, to its former glory." She has raised $10,000. Jerry Rutherford was chairman of the Christian Coalition in Collier County in the 1990s and founded a local Christian organization that distributes free Bibles to high school students. He has attended school board meetings for 35 years and addressed the board more than 300 times during public comments. He suggests offering hazardous duty pay for teachers and others who own guns as a way to make the schools safer. And when asked what he would do to address teacher pay and retention, he said he has a plan, but he won't tell us what it is because then everyone would know about it. He has raised $10,000. Incumbent Jory Westbury is running for a 2nd term. She has undergraduate and master's degrees in education and a doctorate in educational administration with honors. She has served as both an elementary and a middle school teacher and is a winner of the prestigious Golden Apple Teacher Award. She served as assistant principal and principal at Tommy Barfield Elementary School on Marco Island for 14 years. After retiring in 2015, she mentored new teachers and was elected to the school board in 2018. She has raised the least of the 3 candidates, $6,000. 3 candidates are also running from District 3, Jana Greer, Kelly Lichter, and incumbent Jen Mitchell. Jana Greer studied massage therapy at Middle Tennessee University and is also a doula. She has 7 children and was a stay-at-home mom before moving to Naples in 2013. She says on her website that she's for American values in American classrooms. She says, quote, faith in God is what brought me to Southwest Florida, and now I feel that God is calling me to serve on the school board. She has raised $18,000. Kelly Lichter and her husband founded Mason Classical Academy Charter School in 2014. Her focus is on student achievement, and she wants CCPS to be more like Mason Classical. Lichter served on the school board from 2014 to 2018. During that time, she and fellow board member Erica Donalds fought for more funding for charter schools. As reported in the Naples Daily News, quote, Lichter frequently engaged in shouting matches during board meetings. Lichter said she didn't run for re-election in 2018 because she wanted to focus on Mason. But she says she's running now because it's time to get back in the race and make some major changes. She has raised $39,000. Incumbent Jen Mitchell has a BA in elementary education from Purdue University. She taught for a year at Naples Park Elementary, then spent the next 18 years volunteering in the classrooms of her 4 children, as well as serving on their school's PTOs and SACs. She became a realtor in 2014, and in 2018 was elected to the school board, where she now serves as chair. She says, we've accomplished a lot, but there's still work to be done. We need a school board that will continue to set politics and personal agendas aside, collaborate, and focus on the nearly 48,000 students who are counting on us to get it right. Mitchell has raised $45,000. In terms of money, the contest is between Mitchell and Lichter, and they represent very different views of the school district and what needs to be done there. All 3 of them do. Finally, the most contested of the school board races, District 5. 5 candidates are running: Arthur Boyer, Jackie Kay, Timothy Moshe, Roy Terry, and Anna Torino. And here's their money. And as you can see, Moshe's money crushes every other candidate, but it's important to dig into that a little bit. And I found out that $61,500 of that money is personal loans to the campaign, much of which remains unspent. Arthur Boyer moved to Southwest Florida in 1991 from Haiti. He worked as a farm laborer, janitor, and juvenile detention officer, then went on to earn postgraduate degrees in public administration and organizational leadership. He's been an educator for 18 years and is currently the chief executive officer of his own education, leadership, and life coaching firm. He has raised $3,000 to date. Jackie Kay moved to Naples from the Bahamas as a young child. After high school, she joined the Army and lived in Germany for 17 years before returning to Southwest Florida in 2015. She has a master's degree in psychology and homeschooled her children for 10 years. She also taught for 2 years at Mason Classical Academy. She has raised $4,000 to date. Timothy Moshe had a 27-year in the trucking industry, career in the trucking industry, transferring from Ohio to Miami in 1997, where he worked until 2021. The father of 3 and grandfather of 4, currently serves on the Ochapi Fire Board and the Town Compliance Board and attends Everglades City Council meetings. Moshe says he started going to school board meetings because of the mask mandate, and he says the school board, not the superintendent, should be running the schools. As I mentioned, he has $73,000, of which $61,500 comes from loans by himself to his campaign. Incumbent Roy Terry had a career in education, 44 years of which were in Collier County. He came to Naples in 1978 as a teacher and coach at Naples High School, and subsequently served as athletic director, assistant principal, and principal. He was appointed by then Governor Charlie Crist to fill a vacancy on the school board in 2010. He was subsequently re-elected twice and is now seeking a third term. To date, he has raised $11,000. Anna Torino works as an academic mentor for children who are in foster care. She also goes to pro-choice clinics and prays with her women's group and teaches faith formation at her church. She says that if elected, she will, quote, protect our students by keeping inappropriate materials, media, and critical race theory out of our schools. You can see her tagline up there is education, not indoctrination. To increase school safety, she thinks the district should consider allowing teachers who have concealed carry permits to carry guns in school. And she has raised $3,000 to date. So those are all of the school board candidates. Do we have any questions?
We do not. You can go ahead.
All right. Now, here's where we try and bring it all together. If you are a registered Republican, these primaries will be on your ballot. You either live in District 18, 19, or 26, and you will have a closed primary on your ballot. You will have Commissioner of Agriculture, and if you live in District 2 or 4, you will also have a County Commission primary on your ballot. You will have nonpartisan elections primaries on your ballot for county judge and all 3 school board seats. You will not have on your ballot the closed Democratic primaries for U.S. Senator, Governor, and Attorney General. So that's what will be on your ballot if you are a registered Republican. If you are a registered Democrat, you will have primaries for U.S. Senate, Governor, Attorney General, and Commissioner of Agriculture. And the winners of those primaries will go on in the general election. So the winner of the Senate primary will face Marco Rubio. The winner of the governor primary will face Ron DeSantis. The winner of the Attorney General primary will face Ashley Moody. And the Commissioner of Agriculture will undoubtedly face Wilton Simpson. Then you will also have the nonpartisan county judge and the 3 school board races. You will not have on your ballot a U.S. House race or a county commission race. If you are not registered as a Republican or a Democrat, the only thing on your ballot will be county judge and the 3 school board races. Now, in addition, I want to mention that there are some referenda that will be on the ballot for some voters. So most of us currently live in the Collier Mosquito Control District, but the district does not cover the entire county. So there's a proposal to expand the district, and that will involve taxation of the new areas. So if you live in the part of the county that's not currently part of the mosquito control district, but is proposed to be, you will have that referendum on your ballot. If you live in the city of Naples, you will have a referendum to allow the city manager to reside in Collier County rather than the city of Naples. And if you live in the city of Marco Island, there will be 2 referenda on your ballot. One is a Hideaway Beach District tax and bond referendum, and the other is establishment of a vacation rental registration program. Before we take any final questions, I want to just quickly walk through some recommended next steps. The first one is to check your voter information on the Collier Supervisor of Elections website. This is what you see at the top of colliervotes.gov, and that circled box is where you would click. It says, check my voter information. You want to make sure that everything they have about you is correct. Your address, your party affiliation. If you're having a mail ballot set, you want to make sure that it knows that and that it's going to go to the right place. Speaking of mail ballots, I strongly recommend that everybody request one. Florida really encourages voting by mail. All the supervisors of elections encourage it. If you do request a vote by mail ballot, you can still vote in person if you choose to do so. Just bring your vote by mail ballot with you to the polls and exchange it for a ballot to vote in person. You also should make sure that your signature matches what's on file with the supervisor of elections. What you see in this picture is workers in the supervisor's office, and they're comparing the signature on the back of the vote by mail ballots before the envelopes have even been open, and comparing it to what they have in their system, which is what she's looking at on screen. If you think there's a chance that your signature no longer matches what they have on file, it's a good idea to update your signature. And the way you do that is by filling out a new voter registration form, checking the box to say it's an update, and signing with the signature that you now use. Be mindful of key dates. So the supervisor of elections in Collier County actually began mailing vote by mail ballots yesterday. As Stacy mentioned, the last day to register or to change your party affiliation is July 25th. That's 10 days from today. If you're planning to do it, I would encourage you to do it right away. The last day to request a vote by mail ballot is August 13th, and that's when early voting begins. Early voting ends on August 20th, and election day is August 23rd. I would also encourage you to sign up for Sparker Soapbox emails and follow me on social media. On social media, I post something pretty much every day, news that I think voters should be aware of, news articles, sharing the things that are posted by other people. It's a nonpartisan approach, but just as a way to try and help you be more informed voters. And that really wraps up the presentation. We've gone over some key terminology. At large and single district, nonpartisan and partisan, and the whole notion of closed primaries. We talked about what will be on the ballot for Collier County voters and also some next steps. So before I turn it back over to Stacy, are there any last questions?
There are two. One of the questions is, do we know when the ballots will be mailed out for the November election? Because one of our viewers will be traveling in October.
Right. So on the supervisor of elections, well, actually, it's mandated by state law, the window during which vote by mail ballots have to be mailed. I don't know the date off the top of my head, but if you go to colliervotes.gov and click on the November elections, the general elections, you will be able to see that information. Again, if you're not sure you're going to be in town, just call the supervisor's office. They're really great and helpful, and they will tell you what to do depending on what your schedule is.
Right. There's a second question, and that is, can I change my party and then change it back for the November election?
Yes, you can change your party affiliation anytime you want. You do have to change it. I think it's 29 days before an election in order for you to be able to vote in that party's primary. But of course, what party you're registered to does not have any bearing on what you do in the general election. It really is only relevant from the supervisor of elections point of view in preparing your ballot for partisan primaries. But you can do it as often as you like.
Right. Everyone can vote in the November election.
Right.
That's it for questions, unless I've missed something. Let me just double check again. I think we have a couple more questions. Please explain whether people can vote in a Democratic primary for one office and a Republican primary for another office. They can't, right?
No, they cannot. Whatever your party affiliation is governs your entire ballot for that election.
Right. And one more question. Can you send your mail-in ballot as soon as you receive it?
You can. I personally advise people not to. And the reason I do that is because anything can happen. We're a full month away, right, from August 23rd, more than a month. And reporters are just starting to dig into these candidates, and you never know what they're going to find. So I usually personally recommend people to hold on to it, just mail it in time to make sure that it's going to get in by the deadline. But that's my personal advice. There's no reason, if you know who you want to vote for, not to just fill it out right now and send it in.
Great. Thank you. So it turns out one of our viewers did look up the question about when general ballots are going to be mailed, and that's between 9/29 and 10/31.
Great.
One other question. A number of people are interested in whether we can get a summary. They can get a summary of this presentation, so I will cover that. You will be able to watch a video replay of this presentation on the League of Women Voters website starting on the 20th of July. And the chat did not work for us to download for you to download the PDF, so we will try and make that available as well. So that's it as far as questions. Thank you so much, Sandy, for a very thorough presentation about the primary. We've got one last poll before we go. Please let us know if and how you are planning to vote, which method you're using to vote. So our viewers, we hope you would participate in the poll. Thank you. For more information about voter registration, as Sandy said, recheck your registration, and for more information about the candidates, go to vote411.org, a voter guide sponsored by the League of Women Voters. If you have questions, just email voterservices@lwvcolliercounty.org. That's the League's website, and we will try and help. A recording of this webinar, as I said, will be on the League of Women Voter Collier website by July 20th. So thank you again, Sandy. Really appreciate you. We encourage everyone to vote, and your information will help them do that. Remember, your vote is your voice in the democratic process. So thank you all very much. It looks like there might be a couple other questions if we have a minute. Some last minute questions. The question is about, let's see, general ballots. A lot of people are wondering about sharing the PowerPoint with their friends. Is that agreeable?
Yeah, the handout can be shared, Stacy. So what you might want to do is, if you do have the email addresses of everybody who registered, you could send it out to them.
All right. That would be great. All right. Well, good. It looks like everybody who was on board is, one person is not sure. 97% are voting for sure. And the largest percentage are voting by mail. So thank you so much. All right. Well, that's it. We really appreciate all your time and effort, Sandy. And thanks everyone for tuning in.
Thank you.
All right, I think we stopped the recording, right?